All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nuke the House College Football Game Plan Week 3 with your host, Dan Moneyline Miller, alongside me, my co-host, Ray Greyfox. Ray, how you doing this week?
Fantastic Saturday here again on the campus at Virginia Tech. Beautiful weather in Blacksburg today. Hokies are on the road, so pretty quiet. There was some alerts from VT police last night. Apparently there was a knife incident on campus. So excited for this week, Dan. Excited to be here as always. Nuke the House, Dan Moneyline Miller. It doesn't get any better than the legend from the desert. And Dan, we're going to talk this week about the trap game. That's a famous one. I love people to say this game's a trap. This game's a trap. We're going to cover that. In my readings on this week, I like to call it Show Me Week. We will cover the Mizzou game. Missouri, of course, the Show Me State. But this is the Show Me Week. We've seen some teams open with some cupcake, softer games. Now we get to see who these teams really are as they get into the bulk of their, I call it 1A or conference schedules. It's also, oddly enough, week 3, where it never used to be, it is rivalry week. We see a lot of the traditional rivals meeting up again. Some of the ones that we haven't seen in quite some time, actually, will come back. So exciting week for me. Glad to be here with Dan. Let's light this candle, buddy. Let's go.
Let's do it. Absolutely. And like Ray said, rivalry with the conference realignment, we see a lot of rivalry games being played earlier in the schedule rather than later on what we normally see. So just as Ray said, keep your eye out on that. Some of these games, they really mean something to these teams and schools. However, it's early in the schedule, so it's just a different feel all around. So let's get Ray's thoughts on a lot of these games here. Starting off in the 12 p.m. slate, we have number 4 ranked Alabama, 16-point favorites, going on the road to face Wisconsin. Buyback on Wisconsin is plus 525 here. Total's 48. It was 49 last night. Talk to me about this one, Ray.
I did see a 16.5 on MGM and a 48.5 there. So if you're looking to do anything on the Bama side, MGM, if you have them in your state, is a good place to look. Alabama 40-18 versus current Big Ten teams straight up. So generally tied, rolling a little bit versus these Big Ten opponents. DeBoer, he's 1-1 against spread versus non-cons. Alabama 0-5 against the spread in road openers in the last 5 years. So if you're looking to back Wisconsin here in Camp Randall today, Alabama is 0-5 against the spread in road openers the last 5 years. Last meeting between these two teams was 2015. Alabama with a 502 to 400 or 268 yard edge, and they outrushed them 238 to 40. So whenever you think of Wisconsin, you think about a running attack. Infamous for their rush game and their O-line building in Wisconsin. The last one went 35-17 Alabama's way. So it was the opener, and it was played on a neutral. Can't remember if that game was in Dallas or where it was held, but I know it was on a neutral. So no bet for me on this game today, Dan. It's you look at Alabama, it's just still sort of a wait and see. DeBoer's done what he needs to do thus far, but again, now we're starting to get into the week in, week out grind of good quality opponents. So we're going to see if his success at Wazoo or Washington has carried over to Alabama. No opinion on the game. The 16.5, that's probably one of the softer numbers you're going to find. So if you are looking for Alabama, jump on MGM, grab them at 16.5.
All right. What's up, guys? What's up, fellas? JW, thank you for listening. And next game we have on the dock here at 12 p.m., we have 16th ranked LSU. They're 6-point favorites on the road to hosting South Carolina. Plus 205 is the buyback here. Total 48. What do you think about this game, Ray?
Another one, Dan, I did not touch with my money. And looking at my ratings, and again, my ratings are still based on last year's final. How are you going to change Missouri's rating or Mississippi's rating based on who they play? We'll start to see them play teams, and I'll actually run my algorithm for the first time at the conclusion of this week. That at that point, everybody will have in 1A competition in FBS scheduled games that they have played. This is a game day location game. This is the first time game day's been there in quite some time in Columbia. Very, very exciting atmosphere. And it's cool when game day's at a noon game because the crowd can build. The atmosphere is hyped. This is the first meeting between these two teams in Columbia since 2008. LSU was victorious 24-17 in that game. LSU, if you're looking to back LSU here, 5-1 in their last 6 road openers. So that's SEC road openers. 5-1 in their last 6 SEC road openers. South Kakalaki, on the other hand, 0-7 straight up, 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 in the series. So this game to me was a no bet. When I look at my ratings again, how much do you believe South Carolina has improved in this game? So one of the things that's big for me as a guy that lives locally here and certainly lived through the Frank Beamer era at Virginia Tech, his son Shane Beamer is leading the charge for the Gamecocks today in Columbia. Again, very exciting atmosphere. One of the things you'll find, I know it from being here when it happened, but Beamer was an assistant. I believe he was a running back coach. They played Wake Forest. Beamer got the Wake Forest game plan, their play sheet, everything. And although he claimed in the investigation afterwards that he did not pass this on to other coaches and team and players on the team.
You really believe that? I mean,
you kind of find that very hard to believe, right? So he finds their play sheet, was fined $25,000. He was at Georgia as an assistant the next year. So he paid the fine. Georgia actually administered that fine against him. Says he never shared it. But folks, let's just look at this for a second. He had the play sheet in his hand. They lost the game 6-3 in overtime. So with their play sheet, they still lost the game 6-3 in overtime. I always said, and I thought he would become a head coach because of his lineage, it'd always be hard for me to back this guy. So if I went anyway in this game, I'm an LSU lean here, although the atmosphere should be charged in Columbia.
All right. That's a good breakdown, Ray. Next game we have is an unranked matchup. Pittsburgh on the road, plus 110. They're going to face Cincinnati, who is laying 2 points today. Total 62. Any feel for this one?
Well, I wish I could bet it because I'd have a great feel for it because this game was played last week in the bounce house, Pittsburgh, with a big come-from-behind victory. So this one was, again, played last week for what I have.
My bad. Sorry.
No worries. Maybe we were gonna cover it again. It was an exciting game. Pitt came from behind. I mean, exciting atmosphere. So we could go back and cover that, Dan. Whatever you want to do.
On the 12:45 slate, we have number 24 ranked Boston College. This is one of my favorite teams going into the season. They're on the road to face number 6, Missouri. Plus 45 on the buyback for Boston College. Missouri's ranked 14.5. Total 52. Now this was 53. We're seeing some total movement here on the total. What do you think about this one?
So interesting game. So for Nuke the House people, and again, for those of you not involved in Nuke the House, you need to get involved in Nuke the House. The amount of plays given, the sports that are covered, MMA, NASCAR, golf, all the major sports. Jump on now, Nuke the House. We got some promos going. But this was an interesting one because I released it earlier. And, people will talk about buying bad numbers or whatever. I saw the game this morning at 14.5. I actually bought more Mizzou. I bought this down to 14. I bought it at 16. I gave it out at 16. And the first comment was, Keg gave this game at +7, BC plus 17. And I said, well, good luck to all. I mean, Keg's a fantastic handicapper. I have no issue with that. I'm not going to change a bet because anybody else gave it. I'm giving you what I bet. So, I'm not going to get talked off that. By the way, he got the best number at 17 you could possibly get on BC. So good looking out, Keg. Way to grab the sharp number for Nuke the House people. My interest today is, will Keg buy back the 14.5 or even shade it like I did and take Mizzou minus 14 and BC plus 17? Interesting opening for Keg. We're going to wait to hear from him and what he does. Only prior meeting here was 2021 at BC. 41-34, BC won that in OT. Missouri, 19 straight non-con home wins. This is a non-conference game. I like Missouri here, but again, this is show me week, and Missouri is the show me state. So I have a very, very good friend I coach football with currently. He's a Mizzou alum, so of course he's a homer. We talked a lot about this. Their schedule this year, they had Murray State. They had another cupcake. They had Buffalo. They've shut out both opponents. They haven't allowed a point all season. And they also have, I think, UMass. They go to UMass on their schedule. Their regular season win total was 9.5. So they're basically conceded those 3 wins. I mean, they've shut out the first 2, and I don't think they're going to lose to UMass. So there's 3 of your 12 right there. So these are the kind of games that are going to make or break your Mizzou win season total bet. They host Vandy. They start with 4 straight home games. Another reason that a lot of people like the over in their regular season win total, because they honestly look to go 4-0 at a jump, and then they get a bye week. So I did back Missouri here, and I'll tell you why I did that, Dan. If you look like BC FSU is probably why we're seeing the line value we're seeing on BC here, and the buyback on BC when it hits 17 continue to get bought back to the current at 14.5. BC runs the ball. They're known for that. They're known for Doug Flutie and their offensive lines. If Missouri allows BC to run the ball on them today, they will struggle to go over 10 wins because, again, their SEC schedule lies in weight. Vandy, Texas A&M, Auburn, Bama, Oklahoma, South Kakalaki, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. Maybe the softest of all SEC schedules. You don't hear the word Georgia, you don't hear the word Texas, and you don't hear the word Mississippi in there. So, again, that's why a lot of people cook this total at preseason. I like Mizzou because I feel like they will stop the run of BC today. And when you do that and put BC one-dimensional with this quarterback, it should be, in my opinion, this game should be over early and often. But if Mizzou does struggle here, they are going to struggle in the SEC because there's all the teams I just named are significantly stronger. I mean, even Vandy, I'd take Vandy over BC on a neutral. So, I mean, this is a must-win, in my opinion, to get the bulk of their schedule started off correctly. I look for Mizzou handily here today. And, again, I look for them to stop the run. So if you see BC running on them early and often, that's a bad sign. BC will almost surely cover if they can rush on them. I took Mizzou minus 16. I took Mizzou minus 14. I'm on the game. Good luck to everybody. Good luck to Kay. I hope you hit it both ways, buddy.
Now, Bill O'Brien, the coach here at Boston College, what would you give him as a grade so far? I mean, I got to give it at least a B plus, close to an A minus right now. I mean,
I don't see any way you argue that grade. I think that grade's dead on, Dan. I think you've obviously, covered that pregame. Bill O'Brien, 15-9 overall as a head coach going into this season. So again, nothing really major there. This guy, I mean, he had a couple of years at the helm of Penn State. He's 4-3 as an away dog. So, I mean, there's not much there to chew on. You've got to look again. If BC, they piled up rushing yards, 265 against FSU. So can O'Brien lead a balanced attack? Can he lean on his offensive line enough? Overall, O'Brien as a coach is not enough to sway me off Mizzou in this game. I'm a big Eli Drink fan. Drink is, to me, is a coach that's changing the environment, changing the culture in Missouri. And what they're doing is they're spending a lot of NIL money there locally in state. So we're seeing them spend money in Kansas City. We're seeing them spend money in St. Louis. And that is really where you're going to see this Missouri team become a playoff team if they are to do it. It's sort of now or never. They've loaded up the guns. If they let BC come in here and give them any issue at all, it's going to be bedlam in Missouri.
I'm just a little biased, right? Because, Bill O'Brien used to be a Patriot coach, and he was learning under Bill Belichick for a season. So, you got some stuff there, I think. But I like the guy. I always root for him. So, let's see if that Missouri can cover that 14.5 there for you. Going on to the next game we have here on the 3:30 p.m. EST slate, we have a rivalry game. Oregon on the road, 17-point favorites at Oregon State. Buyback on Oregon State is plus 600. Total here is 49. We did see the hook earlier last night, 49.5 on DraftKings. Total is 49. Talk to me about this one, Ray. What do you think? Who do you think wins this one?
Saw the same thing, Dan. I saw Oregon 17, 49.5 as I looked at MGM this morning. Another game that I bet. So we've got back-to-back games that I have my money invested in. Gave this one out. Gave this one to Nuke the House on Sunday at about 4:30. I saw the 14. I knew there was no chance this game was going the other way. There's no way that sharp money is going to come pouring in on Oregon State here. Oregon State has like a handful of returning starters. Again, another team in Oregon that we're saying this is a team that's tournament or bust. A 9-3 season for Oregon will be an epic fail with the NIL money that Phil Knight spends there at Oregon. So I jumped to 14. We did post that. By the time it was posted in Nuke the House, it had gone to 16. There were some complaints there. I tried to explain it's very tough when I release games at 4:00 on a Sunday. Most of you are actually watching the Nuke the House live show. You're betting the 4:00 games. I get it. Would it scare me off at 16? If you bet it, guys, if you bet it at 14, and you're probably going to bet it at 15, 16, 17. So, I wouldn't get off of Oregon at 17 if I was on them at 14. Am I smart enough to know that if I bet that game at 17 versus 14, I'm going to have a worse record over 100 times? Of course I understand that, and you should too. But this is not enough to get me off Oregon. I'd still be on them at 16, and certainly, at 17 is probably your peak because you're crossing a key number. A couple little interesting nugs here. This is called the Civil War, so certainly an in-state head-to-header here. Oregon 1-3 in Corvallis in their last 4 meetings. So this is, again, this game's been played a lot of times. Recent bias is to Oregon State there in Corvallis against the spread. Oregon is 7-1-1 against the spread in their first true road games. So there's a number to back Oregon with. They're very good against the spread in true road games. So Oregon State, they lost. To me, there's just nothing to look at here on the Oregon State side. They have just a handful of returning starters. Last year, it was 31-7 Oregon. There's really nothing to keep me off Oregon. I bought it at 14. I gave it out. By the time they got it at Nuke the House, it was at 16. Buy. At 17, it's still a buy. I get it. Oregon State's a tough place to play, but you have to remember historically this is a November game. And Corvallis is very bad weather in November, a lot of ice, a lot of cold temps, a lot of precipitation. That's not, as far as I know, I haven't looked at the weather, but at this time of year in Corvallis is a beautiful time of the year. So I don't look for weather to be a factor. I look for Oregon to go up early and often here. Another show me game. Show me Oregon. Show me that you're good enough with all this NIL money and all this transfer portal. You want to be a national champion contender. You roll teams like this. You don't go to Corvallis and have a stutter. So Oregon big here.
I just want to, great analysis there, Ray. I just want to also make a little emphasis that college football lines are a little looser than NFL lines, and some of the key numbers might not play too much into a factor. So, if you're someone who only plays numbers and thinks like, the key number is gone, I can't buy it. Look, sometimes, the number doesn't even matter. For example, week 1 in Colorado, when they played, the number didn't even matter. You can have gotten at 6, 7, 8, 9. They won. So, or they covered the first team. So key numbers are less prevalent in college football. They are great to get. I want to emphasize, you always want to get the best number, but don't think just because you didn't get the best number in college football that your bet is completely trash. So always, feel free with your bet, stick to your guns, and that's my pro tip of the day. Going on to the next game, we have a big upset last week here, Ray. Notre Dame did lose to Northern Illinois. 20-1 was the buyback on there. This week, they are 7-point favorites on the road to Purdue. Purdue is plus 220 now, total 47. This was 7.5 last night. People are still buying in on Purdue. Now the line is 7. Where do you think this one closes, Ray? And who wins?
I think it's when I saw this just prior to the show, Notre Dame 7.5, 47. That was an MGM number. Again, folks, multiple outs is your key if you're going to do anything in this business. You can't be limited to one book. If you're just limited to MGM and you go on there at 7.5, it's probably going to squat at 7.5 at this point on MGM. You're buying into a little bit of a bad number again because it's such a key number at 7. You're buying the 7.5 when there's 7s available is rolling the cylinder in a revolver and clicking it against your head. You're eventually going to lose that battle. Before we get on to this game, there's not much here, obviously, aside from Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois last night. I have a ratings edge on Notre Dame. Did not bet this game. I have a ratings edge on Notre Dame. I have obviously the wake-up factor. They lost to Northern Illinois. So, I don't see really going Purdue's way. I don't see anything that pushes me Purdue's way, but I'm not going to get on Notre Dame either because that loss got to show me that you're not a team that loses to Northern Illinois. Interesting note, you guys always see I wear the Good Child hat. Good Child is the official sponsor of Ray Greyfox on this show. They signed me to a 3-year, $100,000 deal with a $100,000 bonus if I go 60%. You're on the way from Philly to Baltimore. You stop in Newark, Deer Park Tavern to get a little lunch. You come out, your car won't start. You got big Orioles tickets. You're going to the aquarium. You're getting crab cakes. You got to get out of there. Call Tommy. Call Wayne. Call JT. Good Child Auto for all your auto needs. Onto this game. Notre Dame 57, 26, and 2 in the series. So again, Notre Dame doubling them up in wins. Purdue, although, if you're looking for a reason to bet Purdue and recency bias in the series, Purdue has covered 3 of the last 4 here. Not a game I'm on. Couldn't see my ratings lead me away from Purdue, so not going to touch the game. Good luck to everybody that does. Multiple outs, people. You won't buy bad numbers on key numbers. That's where it's important. Buying a 3.5 versus a 3, buying a 7.5 versus a 7. Those games land on those numbers a lot.
Make sure that's how you do a promo, Ray, by the way. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button here on YouTube, nukethehouse.com. We are up 200 units this season. All plays are tracked. Nuke NFL for 1 week free trial. It's a great subscription, ladies and gentlemen. You need it if you're betting the NFL. You get all your expert picks. Going on to the next game here, we have Washington State, another rivalry game here. Washington State plus 190 on the road to Washington, laying 6 points on DraftKings. This was 5.5 last night. Now it's 6, total 54. Ray, can we see an upset here?
Can we see an upset here? I would say we definitely can see an upset here. One of my preseason win total bets, and of course they're 2-0 now, Washington is, but I took under 6.5 on their regular season win total. These are the type of games that are going to be the decider. Listen, this Washington team has lost a ton of talent to the draft last year. That's very, very hard to overcome at Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. It's even harder to overcome when you lose your head coach and the name of your school is Washington. Let's be honest. Most of those guys went to Washington to what? Play for DeBoer. Okay, DeBoer is now at Alabama. They are decimated. The couple of cupcake opening winners for them doesn't scare me. I think they can still go under. I think Wazoo could pull an upset here. This is not a great Wazoo team, folks. So don't load your wagons on this game thinking that Wazoo is a super live dog. But game being played on a neutral Lumen Field. If you've heard of that stadium, that's the home of the Seattle Seahawks. The Apple Cup here. Going again, another lopsided rivalry, 76-33-6 in favor of Washington in this rivalry. 12 of the last 14 straight up have gone to the Huskies, and they are 10-4 against the spread. So numbers sort of pointing Washington's way here. But again, that's a recency bias of some very good Washington teams against sort of a stagnant Washington. Washington State's a great example of what I talk about. There'll be a season where everybody will be high on them and their win total will be 8.5. And in the end, Washington State sort of fits into a historical rating. They could go a little high on it. They could go a little low, but it's Washington State. Like, think about it. How do they get recruits there? Like, it's not the greatest place to play. I mean, Lumen was the Huskies' home in 2012 when they were doing some stadium revisions. It's a 4.5-hour drive from Pullman to Seattle for this contest. Washington State's last win versus Washington came, Dan, here in Lumen Field in 2021. So another little creeper dog side for you there. Washington State, obviously, fans willing to travel that 4.5 hours for this in-state clash. And it's the second Apple Cup held at Lumen Field. So Wazoo will look to go 2-0 versus the Huskies. Not a game I bet. I would not be on Washington here. Although they do get the technical home field in the neutral. Should be a good ball game. So it's always fun to watch these games, and I hope they never go away in college football.
It's good analysis there, Ray. A question for you. What's your thoughts on taking rivalry games first halves under? A couple of teams, they might not want to explode right away. They're trying to control the game early. What's your thoughts on those plays?
So I could see that in sort of a familiarity bias, right? So
especially on neutral field, right? Okay.
Correct. This game technically played on a neutral field. It is in Seattle, folks. So that's where Washington is. Washington State and Pullman, Washington, like I said, a 4.5-hour drive. So a home field lean, but a true neutral. So I think they try to sell those games 50-50 if they can. Interesting point you make there. Like, so if they play every year, say in the last 5 years, and both head coaches were at the helm in all of those 5 years, I think absolutely you're going to look under in every way because of familiarity. Okay. It's their big game. Coaches are hired and fired based on wins and losses in some of these games. Their alumni want to win these games. It's the water cooler talking point on Monday. So if they're playing every year and your coaches are the same, which we know Washington lost its head coach. He went to Alabama. But if you have consistent coaching head coaches in the position for the recent time of the rival, and there's a recency bias, a familiarity bias, I wouldn't hesitate at all to be under early and often there. I agree with that, Dan.
Yeah, just make sure you do your research, guys. Follow us on YouTube, nukethehouse.com. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That helps you out. That helps us out. We really appreciate you listening. Thank you for all. Next game we have on the dock here. Now we'll hit Pittsburgh here, right? West Virginia -2 at Pittsburgh, +105 here, total 62. Are we going to see a high-scoring game?
The odds makers obviously think so. This is a game that's pretty oddly bet. It's being played in Acrisure, Pitt's home stadium, I believe, where the Steelers play. This is the 107th version of the Backyard Brawl. This is a game I grew up with. I grew up with Pitt Penn State. I grew up with West Virginia. I mean, all those teams matched up. It was consistent every year. West Virginia, Pitt, that's always been the case. Those are just great games in college football that, again, geography tends to break them apart as these teams fly off the conferences for new money. 107th version. Home team has won the last three. Pitt 62, 41-3 against the number in this series. Pitt is 1-4 straight up and against the spread versus West Virginia since 2009. So if you're looking to back the short favorite here, I had this one at 1.5 West Virginia's way. There's a reason to jump on West Virginia there. Narduzzi 15-23 as a home fave. So again, in this case, the number could vacillate to where he's a short fave, but I do like Pat Narduzzi. I had a great story where I was at a Pirate game with my son. Narduzzi was behind home plate. He saw me and he must have thought I was a former player or coach with him, but he ran up the stairs, gave me a huge hug, talked for about 5 minutes. It was the day after Pitt had beat West Virginia in this game. I congratulated him on the win. He walked back to his seat. My son turned to me and said, "Do you know him?" And I said, "Never met the man in my life." He goes, "Pittsburgh, Dad. It always happens in Pittsburgh." So always a big Narduzzi fan. I was a fan of his before that. I think he gets the most out of his teams. I wouldn't argue with a Pitt bet here at all, folks. I like Nard Dog. West Virginia 8-4 straight up and against the spread run in the series. So again, both recency biases in this series go to West Virginia. The Backyard Brawl, an all-time classic. I wish I could be there for it. Unfortunately, Pitt just doesn't seem to sell out Acrisure. I think in the case of today, I think that's about a 65,000 seat stadium there along the banks of the Ohio there. And I have a little lean on Pitt. Didn't bet it myself, but if I went anywhere on this game, it would be Narduzzi, Nard Dog, and his Pitt Panthers, even though the bias goes the other way.
All right. Next game we have on the dock here is another rivalry game. Utah, 12th ranked Utah. They're -18 here, going on the road to Utah State, +675, total 43.5. Talk me to this one, right?
Didn't dive into this game either. Utah State. I had it 18.5, 43.5 on MGM when I looked at it just pre-show. Two names for this rivalry, which is odd, Dan, right? Normally they get a name and they kind of stick to it. I saw the Battle for the Beehive Boot, and I also saw the Battle of the Brothers. Kind of makes you just feel good about this rivalry. That's sort of a Utah thing, right? Like I could see that. We're just all brothers here in Utah. Utah 79, 30-4 all time. So again, maybe one of the reasons we saw these games that it was easy for them to make the choice to stop some of these rivalries is because there was significant advantages to one side. This one, obviously, Utah more than 2-1 over Utah State all time. Utah's won 14 of 15 since '98. So again, if you're looking Utah's way, it's a big number here today. Last time here, 2012, Utah was -7, and they lost straight up 27-20 in double overtime. So another, that recency bias, if you're looking for the last time here, but again, that was 2012, a long time ago. I wouldn't put too much into that. And another one, Utah State has covered 5 of the last 8. So again, do I expect Utah to win this game? I think if they play this game 100 times, Utah wins at 90. Okay. They're 18.5-point favorites. You're not betting a money line here. If you're betting the game, you're betting the 18.5. There's a lot of bias to go Utah State's way with a number. Utah stepping up in conference. And how many times do you see a team step up in conference and be the consensus favorite to win the conference? That's very odd. So there is everybody's very, very high on this Utah team. Again, it wouldn't shock me if they rolled here, but in-state deal, some recency point spread bias on Utah State. I'm not involved, but Utah to win the game, certainly, I'd say is fairly safe to say.
Yeah. Good analysis there, Ray. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on our YouTube channel. It really helps us out. Now, the next game we're going to is 5th-ranked Ole Miss. This is a 6:30 p.m. EST game. Ole Miss on the road, 21-point favorite at Wake Forest, total 64.5 on DraftKings. This was 64 last night, so people are buying in on the total here. Ray, what do you talk to me about this one?
So we're getting into the show me spot with the Mississippi schedule. They played a couple cupcakes. They have pounded up numbers. And again, folks, if you're data driven like I am, so I don't even do my algorithm. I don't even insert the numbers into it. But I told you, like after week 1, I put Mississippi in, and they rated out at a +47. So that's, again, if they were a +47, they would win every game by 35 or more points. They would be an undisputed national champion. That's why I don't include those games in my ratings. This is the show me game. I mean, they go on the road. It's not a conference game. My ratings, again, make this number fairly accurate. I think it's probably right on. Good betting number at 20. I saw 21 and 64.5 pre-show. Mississippi is 6-1-1 as an away favorite in the last 3 years. Wake has won the only 2 meetings in this little deal, 2006 and 2008. So both were quite a while ago. Wake has won their last 12 home non-conference games. So, there's always something to pick both sides here. To me, if Mississippi is, you remember the great line, they are who we thought they were. If Mississippi is who we think they are, you're definitely gonna see it today. They should roll up on Wake. If Wake presents a problem, what's the SEC going to do? What is a road SEC game going to be for Mississippi if going to Wake is a problem? So, again, ratings be damned. You're not going to know much about Mississippi until now and moving forward. So once Mississippi gets in, they're playing a quality opponent, non-SEC. If this isn't a game they roll, I mean, what was your rate? Where's your rating at now on Mississippi? Because, again, I saw a guy on X. I raised my rating on Mississippi 5 points. 5 points. That's a lot, folks, after they beat a scrub team 73-0. I don't understand that. I really don't. I get it. They didn't fall asleep at the switch, but that's a game they should win 73-0 every time they play them. So show me game. Again, I'd like to see Mississippi roll here because then we start to find out if they are who we thought they were, and then they're going to go into the bulk of their SEC schedule, and we'll see if they really are. No play on this game. Mississippi should win the game outright. They should win it handily if they are who we think they were, but there's a couple of angles here that do lead Wake's way. So if Wake does cover, it certainly wouldn't floor me.
All right, we got some comments here. Tulane team total over 16.5. What's your thoughts on that one, Ray?
I can give you probably some better information once I take a look at this, at a couple numbers on that. I always like to try to answer questions with at least a little bit of data. Tulane's offense in the last 7 years has averaged 26 to 36 points a game. So, again, at that number you're getting, and they did average 26 last year. Their regular season win total was 8. I did win with them last week at Kansas State, and that was a game they should have won outright, honestly. That you could have got them as a nice money line dog in that game. And if you did, I feel sorry for you because they really should have won the game outright. I like this Tulane team a lot. They do score points, but their issue was last week they went kind of flat in the second half, right? I think they were up at the half, and then they were trading touchdowns, and they were driving to take the lead fairly late in that game. The quarterback was stripped. It's a young quarterback at Tulane. He's very electric, but he is young. If he has a nice little start today, I would be totally fine with that over in the first half with Tulane. Again, it lines up with their historical averages. They're better this year than they were last, and they averaged 26. So I'd look for them to average closer to 30 points a game this year. So I wouldn't beef that play at all. I like this Tulane team quite a bit. John Summerall at the head. He was 23-4 at Troy, so a very, very good football coach. No issue with that, Dan.
All right, that's from Jeff Steinberg. Thank you for listening, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Moving on to the 7:30 p.m. slate. This is a couple of good games we have here. Number 1 ranked Georgia, 21-point favorites. They were 22 points last night, so people are buying in at Kentucky. Kentucky a 13-1 underdog here. Over under 45. Do you like anything in this game, Ray?
Didn't bet this game. So very interesting what happened last week in this same stadium, right? South Carolina and Shane Beamer went in there and rolled up Kentucky as a double-digit favorite. I mean, rolled them up. This game was never close. So again, is Kentucky as bad as we saw last week? Probably not. Is Georgia as good as we think? You're damn right they are. They're the best team in the country, and they should beat anybody that lines up across from them this year, and I mean that. I can't wait for the ratings to start to get deep on them because I want to see how much they can push this number. I think I had them projected at a 25 plus 25, which is, again, normally a Final Four team. I think they could push a rating this year close to plus 30. I really do. I think they're that good. Obviously, Kentucky under Stoops is going to be a little bit miffed after that home dud last week. Let's see what we got here. Georgia 8-0 in the last 8 here. So Kentucky hasn't put up much of a bourbon front here at home, losing the last 8. So they didn't cover the last 2, Georgia. But, I mean, again, look at the numbers we're dealing with here. I actually saw this one at 23.5, Dan, on MGM. So, again, encourage all of you to get multiple outs. If you have 2,000 or 5,000, whatever you have to load in at the start of a season into an account, load it into 3, 4, or 5 accounts. That will give you multiple outs. There's so many outs in most states now, and you always have bookmaker.com. It's the best book. It's where the line originates. I've had an account with Bookmaker so long, my account number is like almost non-existent. It's a great book. But you want to make sure you have multiple outs so you're not, again, if you wake up this morning and all you have is MGM and you're like, I got to take Georgia laying 23.5. I think Dan mentioned there's probably multiple 21s out there for you to grab. Kentucky has lost the last 14, 7-4-1 as double-digit dogs since 18. So a solid team is a double-digit dog, and this is the kind of team that they're relatively always going to be a double-digit dog at home against. Going from a double-digit fave to a double-digit dog, can Stoops get them to wake up there? I believe they're in Lexington. I don't know. This is a tough one, tough pill. I mean, how do you bounce back from getting blown out at home by South Carolina? And your reward is your bounce back is go handle the number 1 team in the country. I don't care what the rankings say right now, folks. I think they're delusional if Georgia's not the number 1 team. But I don't pay much attention to that. I did want to touch on that a little bit. So I watched 0.0 ESPN. I mean, I watch games if they're on there, but I haven't watched Sports Center since Stuart Scott was alive. I'm not a big fan of the network. They are creating stories as opposed to covering stories. They used to have reporters at ESPN that actually went somewhere, did work, dug a story, worked it out, and presented it only when they had the facts. Now, if you work at ESPN, create the story. You go make a bunch of noise and create a bunch of controversy for a quarterback controversy or a running back or why isn't he getting paid? It's stupid. I don't watch ESPN. I read articles that are team driven, that are at sites not biased sites. So I will read team articles. I will read transcripts or listen to head coaches' press conferences. But honestly, folks, if you sit there and stare at ESPN every hour when there's no games going on, they will give you 21 reasons to bet 26 things. It's stupidity. Oh, and they have a sports book now, ESPN Bet. So there's an agenda there. I can promise you there's an agenda there. So be careful when gathering information. I personally have one best friend and one best friend only. And it's really simple. I look at every single NCAA box score. I look at how a team got to where it did in the game. So I'll give you a great example, 35-21 final. Team was laying 10. That was an easy win. You could have won by 14. Well, not all 35-21 finals are alike, right? That game could have been 21-21 at the 6-minute mark of the 4th. You get a punt return and a pick 6, and that goes 35-21. And everybody goes, they blew them out by 14. They might even have lost the total yards in that game. So I look at box scores to see total yards. I I look at obviously rushing and passing yards. I look at turnover margin. And I try to look at all that stuff, but I also look at how the final got to where it did. Not all 35-21 finals are the same. That's a big Allen Boston, one of the by far the greatest college basketball handicapper ever. I was in Vegas at the same time as him. We both did some stuff with Billy Walters. Boston Red, as they call him, the best ever. I take a lot of his nuggets from college basketball because you can translate them to college football. So that's one that I've always done is look at how a final got there. Not all finals of the same score are the same. So that's the stuff that I look at, folks. I don't listen to some bobblehead on ESPN who's prattling on about a bunch of bullshit that they don't really know anything about that's on a cue card in front of them. I don't have a production team here, cue cards. I've got a fucking notebook. There it is, folks. There it is. That's what I'm reading off of. So again, watch the sources of data that you get. That's very important. But
that's why he is really likes is when ESPN is against his bet. So power to you there, best. And question here from the chat from Jeff Steinberg. Any trepidation with how many home dogs we have today? Seems like a Saturday set up for disaster with almost every favorite being on the road today. Ray, what's your thoughts on this question?
Listen, that's always, if betting college football were as easy as saying, I'm going to bet every home dog, we'd all be rich and the books would be closed. Books are still opening. They're still building circus of the world that are so big they could fit in a modern city. So I think just in and of itself saying, a home dog is a great angle to take. I would never do that. I think I'm always going to try to look at the game individually. Obviously you look at recency bias and things of that nature, but I'm going to be data driven. So, it's like in basketball, we see the home field advantage in college basketball has gone down in recent years. Why is that? Where are all these guys coming from? What are they doing? They're playing travel ball. They're on the road every freaking week. They play basketball. So going on the road to play in college, by the time they're that age, every game they've played aside from their high school home games has been on the road. College football a little different, but again, you have to look at what is the home field advantage that they're defending. Is it Vandy against Tennessee? Because if you're going to call that a home field advantage and say Vandy's a home dog here, well, yeah, but the stadium's 75% orange, so they're not really at home. They're in a smaller version of Neyland Stadium. So again, be careful with that. I don't bet home dogs just because they're home dogs. If it was that easy, we'd all be rich. But the angle is right. Can't always ask yourself this: can that team keep the crowd engaged? Let's take Georgia, Kentucky, for example. Can they keep them engaged? Because if the game's 21-0 in the first quarter, that's not a home field advantage. No. They're just going to get run out. Yeah. So be careful with that when you look at it. I think the key to backing a home dog is will the fans be a factor in the late third and early fourth quarter? Because if they are, then you have a true home field advantage. And if you have a decent number involved there, you should look to cover that. So be very careful. Always look at true home fields. Develop your own home field advantages. If you don't, there's a ton of sources out there. Phil Steele's book gives his version of every home field advantage. So when you cook that into the point spread, you can use Phil's. He covers the hell out of the sport. He knows what he's doing. You can use your own. You can use, I'm sure there's 50 out there you can get. But check your home field advantage. Is it really a home field advantage or not? And definitely don't fall into the mist of betting a home team when it's in a neutral. That's also, you got to be very careful for that.
Good point there. We didn't forget about you, JW, coming up with this game now. UCF plus 114 at TCU. TCU is a 2.5-point favorite here, total 62. One of our listeners here, JW, is on UCF money line. What are your thoughts on that one, Ray?
Oh, I love you, J-Dub. Get that today. Go get you some candy in this one. UCF at TCU. Let me see what I had here. It's my ratings in this game are definitely gonna lean. It's -4.5, 8.7, 12. It's TCU's tough team led by Sonny Dykes. Okay, I'm a big Sonny Dykes fan. He's 101-54 as a head coach. Gus Malzahn will be leading the charge there for your UCF Golden Knights, 89-72 as a head coach. Last year, UCF, they were 6-7 ball team last year. They were 2-4 against the spread on the road last year. Again, 6-7 teams tend to struggle a bit on the road, and they're 1-4 straight up in Big 12 road games So there's another nugget for you as they take the step in conference. Since 2022, TCU is 7-2 straight up and against the spread in Big 12 home games. So a bit of a TCU bias. But the other flip side of it, TCU 5-5 under Sonny Dykes the last 2 years in one-score games. So if UCF, there's certainly the potential there for them to gun their way into this game. What you're looking for if you're backing a UCF money line here is that this game never gets out of hand TCU's way. You want to keep it as a one-score game. Like I said, TCU under Sonny Dykes split those one-score games 5-5 over the last 10. So I like your chances there with that money line bet as long as this game stays tight. I wouldn't look for it could happen, but I wouldn't look for UCF to make a big road comeback here at TCU.
All right, those are Ray's thoughts. So be a little weary taking the money line. Maybe take the points if you really wish. But NukeTheHouse.com is where you can find us. Make sure that we offer real-time in-game sports betting notifications, pregame bets, and we're up over 200 units this year, and all plays are tracked. Make sure you use code Nuke NFL for a 1-week free trial. Week 3 too is upon us, and I got a couple good leans there. But Nuke NFL for a 1-week free trial. Make sure you also hit that like and subscribe button on our YouTube and turn on our post notifications. That really helps us out. That helps you out, getting the best number when we can. Going to the next game here. This is probably one of the game of the week. Everyone talks about it. Deion Sanders, Colorado, laying 7.5 points, a rivalry game, if I want to note here. Going on the road to face Colorado State, plus 240, total 58.5, Ray. Can the Buffaloes cover?
Rocky Mountain Way, this one known as the Rocky Mountain Showdown. This one, I guess, would fall into a decent category of talking about the dreaded trap game. If I hear that, again, listen to ESPN. They're going to the words trap game will come out 2,478 freaking times by these moron jokers. Trap game. Let's talk about a trap game. Ray, I looked at this game. Colorado's only laying 7 against Colorado State, a woeful opponent. They should. It's Deion Sanders, dude. They had the best quarterback in the country. They had the best two-way player in the country. They have one of the best wide receivers in the country. Who could stop them for Colorado State? It's got to be a trap, right?
It's their offensive line who's going to stop them.
No, it's got to be a trap, Dan. You can't step into this. Let me help you out. There's 2 places. In your entire life, you will never find a trap. What are those 2 places? Well, number 1, on a golf course. There are no traps on a golf course. They're bunkers, folks. They're bunkers. Hole out. Guess what? I'll get out of a bunker every single time. You can always get out of a bunker. How is that a trap if you can always get out of it? That's the most ludicrous thing that anyone ever called something. That's a trap. No, it's not. It's a bunker, dude. Get yourself out, knock it 3 feet from the hole, knock it in. Nice par. Let's move on. No traps there. Where else are there no traps, Dan? In a sports book? Yeah, there's none. Number 1, you walked in the door. If you think there's a trap beyond that door, turn around and walk the fuck out. Okay? Mm-hmm. Just walk out. Don't go in there. Oh my God, there's traps in there. Why would you walk into a trap? There are no trap games because you have pros do aim for bunkers, Pie Eater. You know that as well as I do, and I did when I played. There is no traps in a sports book, folks. There is no traps in any individual games. The odds maker has to post a number for every single game played. Do you have to bet every single game? No, you don't. So how are you trapped? You're not trapped, folks. If you think you're trapped, this is where you're trapped right here. Okay? This is the greatest distance in all of sports is right here. And guess what it is in sports betting? Right here. The minute you start thinking it's a trap, well, should I take the other side? But if I like I like the favorite here. I like Colorado, but I should take Colorado State because it's a trap, right? You take Colorado State and Colorado wins 49-0. That was stupid. I knew I should have taken Colorado. You go the other way. You take Colorado. The game comes down to a game-winning field goal. You lose given the number. I knew it was a trap. I know all that's in here, folks. Walk away. There's 140 games. There's NFL tomorrow. There's WNBA. There's NASCAR. There's golf. There's everything in the world. Badminton. Bet on it. Highlight. You can bet on it. Go to the damn horse track and bet on it. But trust me, there's never a trap in sports betting. Don't create it in this space right here. You don't have to bet the game, people. How is that a trap? If you want to see a trap, come to the mountains of Virginia. I'll set one up there on the mountainside. We'll walk up there the next morning, and we'll see an animal that's caught in it, and guess what he can't do? He can't get out, Dan. He can't get out. It's the end of the day for him. That, friends, is a trap. Yeah, you can't get out of it. You can get out of this Colorado State game, as I did. I did not bet this game. Rocky Mountain Showdown. If you were 132 years old, you would have watched the first one of these tilts. It's the 93rd actual meeting over those 132 seasons. Since 2015, folks, Colorado is 6-0 straight up, 4-1-1 against the number. So that's about the last decade. Colorado's obviously dominated. First time they have met in Fort Collins since 1996, and Colorado won that one by 2 touchdowns as a road fave there. And last year, this game was a good one for those of you that remember it. I think this might have been, I could be wrong, but it might have been Colorado's last win of the year. This is when they were ranked and everybody was high on them, and they hadn't played a single team with an offensive or defensive line yet. So last year, Colorado 43 to 35 in double overtime. That's how they got there in that one. So again, I'm a Dion fan. He's not going to fix the offensive line with the NIL. So if he's not recruiting them starting last year, he's probably never going to have a line. I mean, I don't know, unless they throw huge bags at big men right out of high school or 1 year into their NCAA deals. He's got to fix their lines. Is it enough to get me off Colorado? I'd have a lean on Colorado in this game. That would be about it. I mean, if I bet it anyway, I bet Colorado. I stayed off the game. It's a good one, though. I mean, it's, another little test for Dion, and we'll see if Colorado State can exploit some of those weaknesses or not.
Yeah, just like everyone says, traps, and you might want to stay away from it. I'm going to tell that animal. Andrew says he's going to tell the animal he's just in a bunker so they can keep moving. I thought that was pretty funny.
Nice.
Going on to the 8 p.m. game, the last game we have on the slate for us talking about is Maryland laying a point at Virginia. Buyback on Virginia is -105 on DraftKings. Total here is 57. Ray, who do you think wins this game?
Gave this one to Nuke The House members on Sunday. I like Maryland here. And again, I'm sure that, the closing line value, you gave 2 versus 1. Bet the money. I mean, I could have, as soon as the money line opened, if I bet the money line here, what's the difference, right? Maryland's always been a short favorite. It's less than a field goal. Games landing on 1 and 2, man, it's not going to run me off of it. Another classic here. Most people kind of don't. I mean, they're border states, obviously. Their first meeting, Maryland and Virginia, was 19 and 19. 1919. That's over 100 years ago. So another kind of storied tilt here. They don't have a name for it, but this rivalry went on until Maryland joined the Big Ten. So 80th meeting played every year from 1957 to 2013. They were ACC, of course, rivals. Maryland left in 13 to go to the Big Ten, and now they're bringing it back. I think they started with last year with a contract for this game. Maryland was jumped out 14-0, won 42-14. So Maryland won handily last year in this contest. I believe that was held in College Park. Maryland has won the last 3 in this little state-to-state deal, and they've been 2-1 against the spread there. The last 3, for those of you total bettors out there, the last 3 in this series have gone over the total. That's over the total. I see 56 just prior to showtime here. Would not shock me. Again, UVA I'm sort of still in a wait and see mode. They did have a nice ball game last week. If I remember correctly, they came back and won a ball game. They played a good game last week, and I think they came back and won. Let me just double check my notes on this one. Virginia, get to the Virginia page. There we are. They did. They were at Wake and won 31-30. But this was one of the reasons that I was on Maryland. There's a number of reasons that I jumped Maryland in this game. They won a game 31-30 that they were outgained in -114 yards. So they were outgained by 114 yards by Wake. I think Maryland has a better offense than Wake. I think Maryland could get on this Virginia team as they did early last year. So I did side with Maryland here. I laid the 2 in this game, down to 1 if you want to grab it now. Little bit of line value, but not much there. UVA did have 16 returning starters. For those of you that like to feed into that, Maryland had 12. And Maryland, the difference there, Maryland was an 8-5 team last year. UVA was 3-9. So, in my ratings, I have UVA as a minus 8.5 with a slight trend upward. I have Maryland as a 6.0 and trending upward. So just that number alone, I have a huge rating advantage, I think, in Miami. Maybe I've missed the UVA. Maybe I should have 2 up arrows going next to UVA. And if they beat Wake on the road and Maryland here, I probably will adjust that to 1.5 to 2.5 to 2 ticks up when I start to look at my data. Again, when we look at Virginia, they've hosted Richmond, they go at Wake, and then they host Maryland. So now I'm starting to I have legitimate data here, right, on Virginia, a road ACC game and a former ACC foe at home. That's just enough for me to start to develop a number on them. It'll be interesting to see where that number falls versus the minus 8.5 of last year. I had it to be improved, so I expect it to be improved. But is it a minus 6? Is it a minus 4? Or is it even in the 0 to plus numbers? Been a long time, folks, since UVA visited plus numbers in my rating system. They have fit into a pretty bad notch of late. Bronco Mendenhall was a great hire by them. And I don't know if there was some health issues there or why Bronco. He left Virginia abruptly, and that's certainly stagnated their program. So now they've got Tony Elliott. He's 6-16 here in overall. 16 returning starters for Virginia. Regular season win total of 4.5. But again, let's look at this team, 26-32 in the last 5 years. So are they turning the corner under Elliott? Does the Wake game show you that? Minus 114 in total yards doesn't scare me off of Maryland in this game. So again, one of the 3 I've given out 3 on this card today that we covered. They were all given to Nuke the House members, and one of those was Maryland minus 2.
Good analysis there, Ray. We're heading up to the time here. My best bet of the week, I'm not your expert analyst here. I'm just going to go with Miami, Florida. I think Mario Cristobal, he's trying to prove something this year. I think whenever he gets a chance to blow out any team, I think he's going to. So they're laying 36.5 there against Ball State. They're playing at home. So that's my best bet is Miami 36.5. I think they can win by 40. So I'll take that number there. Ray, can you just recap some of your best bets for the audience?
I can, Dan. I can. And let me just be the first to say I love that. I love that bet, and I love your reasoning for it. Cristobal played at Miami when they were world beaters, and then he proceeded to watch the demise of the program for various reasons. We can do a show just on that. I like Cristobal. I thought that was a keynote hire. I thought that was a turn the corner moment for Miami. Again, this is what I've heard from some alumni, but apparently the old AD there who was fired prior to Cristobal's hiring, he said in every meeting when they searched for a head coach, the first name that came up was Mario Cristobal, and he said, take that name off your search list. We will not discuss the position with him. Well, so you had your chance, and you put in a bunch of scrubs, and you got your ass handed to you, and now you're out on the street, and Cristobal is in at Miami. He is that kind of head coach, folks. There is no off the pedal here. If they're up 40-0, they want to go to 50. If they're up 50, they want to go to 60. And he knows he's sending a message to the rest of the country. I'm here. I'm back. Miami's back. And the way of the hurricane is back. They're going to win Florida recruiting. They're going to try to win everything in what they call the state of Miami. That's I-4 South. So I like that one a lot, Dan. It's big numbers are hard for me to lay. But if I would not hesitate 1 minute to dive in on that Miami game with you. So well played by you. I look for you to win that one. Maryland minus 2. Oregon, I bought them early at 14. I'm not going to talk you off of it at 16.5 or 17. I think, again, if Oregon doesn't roll, Phil Knight's having a heart attack and heads are going to roll because you don't lose to Oregon State when your claim is that you're a national title contender. Mizzou, I laid the number there, a fairly large number in 16. That one, folks, down to 14.5. So if you haven't bet it yet, you can grab that great number, 14.5 off of MGM. Again, 14.5, 15, 15.5, and 16, folks. Not going to change my opinion on a game. Another show me game for the show me state here, as I mentioned earlier. If you play a single digit, if you play a 1-score game against a BC team, your hype train has crashed. So these are a couple show me spots that I'm actually backing the show me team. They know what they need to do, folks. There's 12 spots available. If Missouri loses to a BC, I'd say they have one more loss in them and they're out. So, I mean, you can't let a team that loses to BC in the national playoff unless it's their only loss. So Get it going, home cooking there. Let's see if they can get it done. But those three I gave out. I have a handful of other plays this week, folks. Just want to wish everybody good luck. One interesting note, Starlink is coming to the Greyfox household. Mrs. Fox ordered that last night. So you may see a beautiful mountainous background behind me next week if that is doing what it should, as opposed to the gray slate wall here at Virginia Tech. By the way, why they do this stuff at Tech? It's like they have the most iconic colors in sports. Orange, that maroon. You can even pepper some black in with that. Whatever the fuck this color is behind me is not a Virginia Tech color. So why that wall is not orange or black? It's like they can't find that paint. I wear a shirt at work they gave me that's fucking Memphis blue, Dan. What are you doing, dude? Orange and black. We should all be wearing it. What are we doing? Get rid of this prison wall behind me. I'm here because I get a great internet signal. I'm looking to do that with Starlink next week. To everybody out there, get on Nuke the House right now. Get on board. Get the deals. They're offering tons and tons of deals. Nuke the House. Drop bombs on the house. Virginia Tech, a great day for them. I look for them to have a great day. Everybody on campus, great weather. Dan, I hope you have a great day out there in the desert, and good luck to everybody on their week 3 bets. Absolutely. I'll try to get my cameras fixed for next week, but just want to note quick, Alabama's now down to a 14.5-point favorite at Circus Sports. You can find them in Illinois, Las Vegas. Ooh, Jeff Benson. Jeff Benson is cooking. One of the best odds makers out there. I love Jeff. A Virginia native who can't get Circa in Virginia. I'm sure it's because Virginia's trying to take too much percentage. That's an interesting line move, and that's a sharp line move, folks. If that's happening at Circa, that's probably because there's quite a bit of money being pushed either across the counter or across the screen. So interesting line move back in the Big 12 homer. We'll see. A Big 10 homer. We'll see. Randall. Just wanted to put that out there, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Nuke the House, your college football game plan. Good luck, and everyone, on your bets, and we'll see you next week.